Chapter 4. William Billy Richards. Before Way notified the police, a neighbor who had heard the lone gunshot dialed 911. William faded into the shadows, waiting for the Rocky Mount Police Department's response to an active shooter incident. A legitimate department would send every officer on duty if someone discharged a gun in a suburban neighborhood. The first siren shattered the still night within seconds of the call. A set of strobing red and blue lights appeared moments later. An officer screamed to a stop behind a town car, pointing his gun at the luxury car. He used the open door of his cruiser as cover. William knew an open door wouldn't stop a bullet. A second siren closed in on the sleeping neighborhood. It screeched to a stop in front of the Lincoln, trapping it between the two cruisers. The officer, a twin to the first, took his stand behind his own open driver's door. With his skills, William had no need for a gun in battle, but even he questioned the department's tactics. They'd shoot each other if either fired. Neither man knew that the criminals hunkered inside the vehicle weren't capable of returning fire. "Driver, keep your hands where I can see them. Slowly get out of the car." The second officer spoke, showing him the senior of the two. William knew the extensive injuries he had inflicted prevented the driver from exiting the vehicle. From his position, William heard the squawk of the police radio, unable to decipher the message. No one inside the Lincoln moved, and neither did either of the two clueless officers. "Driver, this is your final warning. Get out of the car slowly with your hands in view. We won't ask again." A third car approached with its grill lights flashing, an unmarked car belonging to either a supervisor or detective. An older, heavy-set man climbed out, waddling over to the lead cruiser. They exchanged words unheard by William. Whatever he said caused the two officers to holster their weapons, climb back into their cars, departing the scene. Recognition hit William like a freight train. Lieutenant Benjamin Arnold graced the scene of the shooting, sending his inferiors on their way. Pieces of the puzzle started fitting together in his mind. 20 years ago, Arnold had been the lead detective in the investigation of Karen's death. He weighed about 50 pounds less then. But Arnold had been a corrupt bastard back then, too. His faulty investigation led William to a life with the monks in Penglai. Part of him wanted to smash Arnold over the head with the staff, ending him here. Nobody would witness the murder. But luckily for the fat man, the monks taught William anger control. Focus his rage on satisfying his long-term goals. The mission had nothing to do with his personal revenge. He needed to protect Kate while restoring the town of his youth. Stay focused. Arnold gave the town car a quick once-over before stopping at the driver's door. He leaned inside, speaking to the driver. William hoped the thug delivered his warning to the fat cop. He needed the message to reach Sergey's ears, draw the chief thug out of hiding. After the brief conversation, Arnold withdrew his phone from his pocket. If given 3 guesses at the recipient of the early morning phone call, William would guess Sergey for all 3. Arnold waddled back to his car after disconnecting. Instead of driving away, he sat in his car, waiting. William followed his lead, getting comfortable in the shadows. A real-life story better than any Hollywood action movie. After 15 minutes, a black Cadillac Escalade raced into view. It screeched to a stop near Arnold's car. Sergey Popov himself climbed out of the back seat, storming toward Arnold. Even from this distance, William watched Arnold cower as Sergey approached. Their exchange lasted less than 30 seconds before Sergey stormed over to the Lincoln. He leaned inside the open driver's door, exchanging words with the injured driver. Sergey stepped back from the car, grabbing Arnold's service weapon. Before the fat cop could react, Sergey used Arnold's pistol to off the driver. Arnold yelled at Sergey after he used his pistol to murder a man. William considered popping out of hiding, ending both men here. A quick end to their stories. But he needed to uncover more information before killing them. If someone controlled Sergey, then the fight would continue. No sense giving up his advantage over petty revenge. The monks taught him how to use violence as a tool. Pick the winning strategy. Their exchange ended as the men moved to Kate's front step. Sergey kicked the front door, shattering the door jamb. He rushed into her house, his gun leading the way. The other 2 men chased after him. Way had delivered Kate and her pastor friend to safety, so they would find only an empty house. The men returned to the front yard within 3 minutes. Sergey yelled, waving his arms like a lunatic. But William couldn't understand a word of his tirade. He chuckled as he imagined Sergey's impotent drivel. Sergey stormed away from the two men, slamming the back door of the SUV. He left one of his men behind with Arnold. The tires squealed as the caddy raced away from Kate's house. William debated the merits of sticking around or following Sergey. With Kate safe, he saw no reason to remain stationed outside of her home. He would deal with the fat cop and Sergey's minion later. His need to learn more about Sergey drove him to follow the SUV. The house, 3 doors down from Kate's, had been vacant for over a year. It provided the perfect spot to park the jet black Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle. William mounted the bike, pushing the starter switch. The 1340cc engine roared to life, eager to run. With a top speed of almost 200 miles per hour, he catched the oversized Cadillac SUV within seconds. Even the most alert driver wouldn't see him coming. He towed the shifter into first gear, tearing away from the derelict house. Even with its head start, William caught the boxy vehicle within 3 blocks. The SUV headed toward the ritzy side of town, away from the area where William had lived a lifetime ago. They drove to the part of town where people never wanted for anything. William had escaped his punishment all those years ago because his parents had it all. They'd always got their way or bought their desires, a privileged life. At least they had, until the day they lost it all. Today, even his old neighborhood looked well worn and neglected. Even those who had money suffered in Rocky Mount. No wonder everyone who could flee fled the sinking ship of a town. When the black SUV slowed in front of a large metal gate, it interrupted his thoughts of the past. The gate parted, allowing the Escalade inside the compound, a castle fit for a counterfeit king. William blipped the throttle, racing past the property at an obscene speed. Observe and gather intelligence before acting. He rounded the corner, circling around the block. After taking the 3rd corner, he arrived at the derelict town park. As he entered the access road, he killed the engine. Silence replaced the rumble of the straight exhaust pipe. The slight grade of the road provided an overlook of Sergey's property. His yard occupied about 10 acres of prime real estate. As a kid, this block consisted of a dozen upscale houses. Back then, they used the term McMansion to describe the home sitting on the town's largest recreation area. Now, the entire block had an 8-foot-tall fence surrounding it, surrounded by several video cameras. The main house, built in the obnoxious Russian whorehouse school of architecture, looked the size of a warehouse store. William guessed at the design elements, not being an expert. Either way, he knew ugly when he saw it. Besides the security cameras, a dozen armed men roamed the grounds. Again, he thought about storming the castle, but without Way's support and a solid plan, it would be too dangerous. The monks taught him restraint. "Dodo, this is Kingfisher. What's your 20? Over." "It's Kingfisher now?" "I'm outside the snake's den. I followed him from the packages place. Over." Way's communication protocols grew sillier with each transmission. William supposed it helped if anyone listened in, but how sophisticated were Sergey and his minions? The Russian mob had nothing on Way and his technology. Nobody out-hacked Way. At least William thought of Way as the best, but he loved Way like a brother, and it might have slanted his opinion. "I know where you are, Dodo. I've been tracking you the entire time. During the next flyover, I'll get a peek via the satellite. See anything helpful? Over." There's about a dozen armed men roaming the grounds. An 8-foot fence surrounds the property, with open ground beyond the fence. No easy way to sneak up, but not an overwhelming protective force. Oh, Lieutenant Arnold is involved with Sergey too. Sergey used his gun to off the driver. Over. "Tell me something I don't know. About half the police force receives payments from a shell company called the Sunshine Bakery. Someone with fewer skills than myself wouldn't have been able to tie the company back to Sergey, but I did. The lieutenant is the highest ranking officer on the payroll. He's 3rd in command under the chief. Over." Arnold had been a detective 20 years ago. He started my troubles in Rocky Mount. I wanted to crack his skull at the packager's place, but I exercised patience so we can win the entire game. Over. The channel filled with the roar of Way's laughter. It went on for longer than William thought prudent. "Sorry, Dodo. Exercise patience? I've heard it all now. Anyway, Maybe you should have cracked his skull. The fire department sent out alarms to surrounding towns to contain a car and structure fire at the package's address. Sounds like a total loss. We'll make them pay. Why don't you return to base? You need rest, and we need a plan. Over. Roger. William omitted the last over on purpose. He needed time to think, and Wei would prattle on if he thought William had finished talking. Wei was a genius, but he never knew when to shut up. Besides, Wei came along to support William, not to get involved in the fight. This war belonged to William alone, giving him a chance to atone for the sins of his past. Those who knew the entire story might not blame him, but William blamed himself enough for everyone else. He watched Sergey's compound for another hour, seeing nothing useful. Once he bounced a few ideas off Wei, they'd come up with a master plan. They accomplished their initial goals of keeping Kate safe and sending a message to the monster who thought he ran Rocky Mount. The sun would be up in another hour, and his dark clothing and black motorcycle would stand out in the daylight. William mounted the Hayabasa, heading to their base of operation. When William was a kid, he had always wondered about the Rocky Mount Hotel in the center of town. Even back then, it looked like a derelict structure standing only 5 stories high and in perpetual need of repair. He never knew who stayed in such a place, and he would have been happy, never knowing. Another blight on the once prosperous town. Wei secured the entire 5th floor for their mission. Each floor housed a dozen efficiency-style apartments. Each last decorated in the early 1970s. They used the best 2 rooms on the 5th floor to house Wei's equipment and to rest. William wasn't sure how Wade paid for all this stuff, even though he explained it during many late nights. Most cash these days was digital, and Wei helped himself to the earnings of several evildoers. The criminals he robbed wouldn't file a police report because of their own business dealings. Those who had police on their payrolls might look into it, but none of them had Wei's genius brain. He hid the bike behind a deserted derelict property a block away from the hotel. This had been another change from his youth. Instead of the former prosperity he enjoyed, the town fell into neglect and despair. Anyone who could afford to moved away many years ago when the crime first moved in. William hoped their efforts would make a difference this time, but doubted one man could change anything. Well, one man destroyed the town, so maybe one could save it. Wei sat in front of 3 large curved computer monitors with the local cable news channel playing on mute. The glow from the monitors and television provided the only light in the room since the curtains were all closed. William flipped the light switch, illuminating a single low-wattage bulb and a cheap, filthy ceiling fixture. Its dull yellow glow didn't change the light level in the room by much. "Welcome back! You caused a stir today. The police scanner is non-stop. They're looking for a man with a big stick." William burst out laughing. It sounded ridiculous even to him. It would be in their best interest to not find me, because it won't go well for them. "Did you find anything else?" "The satellite will be overhead Sergey's compound in 37 minutes. I'll take over the feed and check out his house and the grounds." His home occupies an entire block. When I was a kid, there were several large homes there. "Records show the town took the land by eminent domain and gave the property to Sergey's shell company. I would have liked to witness that town meeting. Of course, who would have stood up to them back then? There will be no news until the satellite passes overhead. Why don't you grab a little sleep? You need to be fresh later. I'll wake you up if anything changes." "Okay, be sure to wake me up if anything does change." "Don't worry, I got your back, bro."